Hi, and welcome to the Intellectual Adventure Podcast. Today we're joined by Jeff and myself as we come together in a culinary topic for you. We're here to discuss difference in the various spices of the world that we have experience with and what we depend on when we're making certain flavor compounds pop. Towards the end of this, we will be diving into our personal lists of top spices that we prefer to use and prefer to balance around our cuisines. Stay tuned and we will be getting into some interesting discussion today. Jeff, how you doing?
I'm well. Cameron, how are you?
I've been doing well today. Just waking up, on time today for the show. It's a good feeling. So
I slept into about 6:45.
Nice. You were up pretty early.
Yeah, I try to, once it hits about 6, it's hard to just go back to sleep. So
Yeah, I understand that.
if I'm already asleep at 6, then it's not hard to stay asleep.
Yeah, my tactic for work lately has been trying to wake up at like 4:45, 5, and ride out the little time that I'm consciously aware I'm still in bed, and then it makes the sleep feel a little longer when I have to get up at 6.
Right. You get up at 4:30 and you use the restroom, and then you say, "Well, I still got an hour and a half."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you.
How's the winter been up there so far?
We've only had snow once, and it wasn't so much shoveling as basically pushing it off the edges.
Yeah.
So not too shabby.
Nice.
I thought we were going to get some a couple of days ago. They had a winter storm warning, but all we got very little of the white stuff, and it kind of looked like little snowballs. I didn't know if it was a soft hail or packed snowballs.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Yeah, well, it's all geoengineered weather modification. They spray stuff in the atmosphere so that the molecules of moisture grab onto something, and sometimes they form a little tiny snowball. So
Makes sense.
if you've seen the snowball snow, where it's not flakes, but it's just little tiny snowballs. Yeah, that's geoengineering for the most part, unless you've had a volcano go off lately, and then that could be different.
Yeah, that makes sense though.
And there is one off the Oregon coast that's about to pop off. So
No, is it really?
yeah, yep.
Man.
Yeah, we just had that. Was it a magnitude 7.3 off of the coast, just south of the Oregon border,
Yeah.
up by Crescent City there.
So it must be somewhere near that region.
Well, it's north of there, because that is where Three Plates come together. Is just off Crescent City there.
Oh, that's right.
And then just north of there, there's a bulge happening. So we're keeping their eye on that bulge.
Yeah.
If you go over from, I think it was Bend to the coast and a little south, it's out that way. There's a seamount or something, like 1,000. They said 1,000 kilometers tall, which I don't have the thing in my head as far as what the kilometers to miles is.
Yeah, I think that's slightly over half a mile, but I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. But it's still submerged. It's not above the water, so you can't really go to the coast and look for it. But you can find it on Google Maps.
Totally.
After we're done here, I can send you a link.
Yeah. It's always nice to know when things pop in the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's in your neighborhood, kind of, so you might want to be aware.
Yeah, especially don't go for a coastal trip that weekend.
Yeah, do some go out to the coast for some fishing or something.
Exactly.
Because if it does pop off and if it's violent, then there will be some tsunami warnings and possible damage from waves. So,
Yeah, no bueno. No
Yeah.
bueno.
No, you don't want to be anywhere near that because
No, siree.
you never know how far inland that tsunami is going to go. I mean, if you have a coastal cliff, that's one thing, but you know,
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and dive into moving out of the comments, and we're going to go ahead and get into the engagement outposts of things today. Now, is there any reference you'd like to make before getting into today's discussion, Jeff?
just that I have learned from many people, including my Czech grandmother. She didn't realize that I was taking notes when she cooked, so I learned a few tricks from her and some of her favorite dishes. And then as I went through life and I got married to my wife Taya, she was from her family was Austrian and Russian. Her mother was Russian, was born in China, believe it or not, because they fled Russia. Her grandmother was born in Siberia. My wife's grandmother was born in Siberia. So
Oh, wow.
I was able to meet her mother, but not her grandmother had already passed before I met them. So anyway, I got a little bit of Russian flavoring to the Czech food that I already made because it was the same but different. Like I started making she called them pelmenis, which is like a little dumpling, a filled dumpling, has a dough on the outside, and then you boil it. Filling, you can use meat or vegetables, and then the seasonings were pretty mild for Russia and for the Czech Republic. You had your salt and your pepper. I prefer a sea salt, a nice sea salt, not necessarily the Himalayan. I've heard some bad things lately about it. I'm still doing research on it, that there could be possible radiation in some of the Himalayan sea salt.
Oh.
And it all depends on where they dig it out of the ground.
Yeah.
I just finished a bag of large rock Himalayan sea salt that I had in my pantry for a while, that came from Pakistan. But you never know what the you're only going to get the Himalayan sea salt from the Himalayas. So you got to deal with either India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, the other stands that are up along the Himalayas, or China. So you have to trust that they're providing a quality product for you.
Yeah.
I have a blend of 6 different sea salts. One I got as a blend of 3. It was a Mendocino white sea salt. It was a Greek black sea salt. And a Himalayan sea salt mixture. And then I add to that Celtic gray sea salt, which is kind of damp. I add a Baja Gold sea salt and Icelandic. It's almost pure white. It's almost silvery. It's beautiful stuff. And each one has a different mineral compound that your body could use. So some are higher in some minerals and some are higher in other minerals. And together I take a little pinch every day with a full glass of water. And I basically just eat, dab it on my tongue and let it dissolve and wash it down. And that's pretty much, the major spice that I use is a sea salt and various kinds, not just one. Pepper, I try to crack myself. I get peppercorns and I put them in a grinder, and I can vary if I want it really fine or really coarse. I prefer coarse, personally.
Okay.
Those are 2 go-tos in just about anywhere in the world, is salt and pepper.
Oh, and then not to dismay your point, because it's very interesting, but is there any background resource that you want to refer to when talking about today's subject, or?
Well, I have different suppliers that I get the salts from. A lot of these you can't really just find in the store. There's a YouTuber. Well, he's kind of a. I follow him on mostly on Telegram. His name is David Avocado Wolf, and he sells different sea salts, and he sells other things as well for health. That's where I got the Mendocino from and the Icelandic. The Baja Gold, I think I bought it off the internet. Amazon probably, hard to tell. And then the other one was put together, and I bought it from a little store down in Solvang, California. Her business model is she cold presses olive oils. She makes seasonal balsamic vinegars and also has seasoning blends, which includes this 3 different salt blend. So that's where I got it from. I don't know the name of her store off the top of my head, but I can get that for you if you like.
Yeah. If you can get that for me, we can throw it in the description below for people, so they could refer to it, because that's always great to have more ideas for culinary inspiration.
Yeah.
But as far as myself, I have different background in various culinary flavors. There's been seafood I've been around,
Red
Italian
Lobster
food. But no.
I'm joking, because I worked in a few restaurants as a kid, so
that's
that was just a joke.
No.
McDonald's, Red Lobster, Taco Bell,
Yeah, I don't know if they'd condemn me for liking Red Lobster.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just it just popped in my head as a joke.
Oh man,
I have eaten at Red Lobster. I have suffered the consequences because I didn't know I was allergic to lobster.
I know. You and your shellfish allergies there. It's
just crustaceans.
Yes.
Just crustaceans. I can eat all the clams and oysters and scallops and stuff I want. Fish, I can eat fish, but just not the crustaceans, the bugs. I can't eat the bugs. Sorry, Bill Gates. I'm not eating the bugs. Sorry, Klaus. I'm allergic. I know it.
Oh man. Well, we used to do barbecue, Italian foods. I worked in seafood, and then a little bit of Asian cuisine throw in there. There's been a decent amount of variety that I've been exposed to, and growing up, my stepdad was especially into cooking. He had a background with cooking with Guy Fieri, actually, and he used to show me some tips on spices and such, and he always made really, really good dishes. And I'll highlight one of the spices that he showed me personally that I've always used ever since, because just so much use out of that flavor compound, the flavor mix. And I think that's one interesting thing to highlight before we get into the trial grounds with all of this, is how there can be different blends of spices, and how those different blends and proportions affect how much flavor comes out.
Right.
It's like, for instance, a barbecue rub. Most everyone's got a barbecue rub in their cabinet. Well, also, everyone knows about those really overly salty barbecue rubs.
Right.
It's just too salty. And
I make my own rub.
and see, that's where it comes down to. It's people start gaining preference on what their tolerance is, because some people really like the salty stuff.
Right.
I personally, I don't need that much salt. I don't need it. I would say drowning in salt, but that's kind of an oxymoron.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs salt because the body is an electrolytic device.
Absolutely.
So without salt, your functions would cease in your body. So everybody needs, if you go in to the hospital, what's the first thing they do?
They give you glycol if you're having trouble.
They give you a bag full of saline solution with 9,000 milligrams of salt in it.
Not glycol. Don't put glycol in your system.
No, you don't want. It's antifreeze.
You don't want that.
Glycol is antifreeze.
Yeah, you don't want that in there.
And it comes in Cool Whip and ice cream and all kinds of other stuff. The stuff that's frozen but soft. has glycol in it. You can almost bet it.
Yeah, that's the stuff they put in McDonald's French fries.
Oh God, they put so much in there. And then they cook it in seed oils.
Yeah, I know. They're a dangerous treat right there.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be quality ingredients at McDonald's years and years ago, but the accountants are running the kitchen now instead of the founders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Not the only ones. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, seed oils are cheaper, so that's why they use them.
To dive into the trial grounds with the start, I think we'll go ahead and work our way from the 5 top recognized flavor compounds that make up the spice in sauce. So a good sauce is classified, and I'm not saying that a sauce that hits one of these is like only one of these primarily is a bad thing, but it's generally recognized that a good general sauce is hitting these 5 flavor compounds, and that would be savory, sweet, sour, umami, and acidic. And for this today, we'll go ahead and work our way from the top of that. So savory. And on that note, Jeff, what would you say is your top go-to savory addition to, say, a sauce or a cuisine?
Outside of salt and pepper, I'm going to be kind of general in the term spice or seasoning. Some are herbs, some are like garlic and onion is a spice, but they're basically bulbs. You grow bulbs. So I'm going to be generalized as far as the term spice goes. When it comes to the ones that I use the most is the sea salt and fresh cracked pepper. And then I reach for if I'm looking for a little spice, little heat, I have a couple of different blends that I make. One has red pepper flakes and some smoked paprika and some cayenne pepper, salt, a little bit of salt in there. I put some garlic and onion, whether not usually powdered. I usually use a granulated garlic and a granulated onion. And then I have a grinder that I put that in so that I can just grind it onto anything I want, and I keep it on the back of the stove. So that'll give me a little bit of heat in the food so that it'll warm my mouth up. I really like foods with some heat in them. So I wasn't raised that way. I grew to like the heat as I grew up and went through life. So.
No, I definitely see the value in that, and I like the granulated onions and garlic as well.
Mm-hmm.
That can be a very powerful tool in spicing things up. So,
yeah, and I put all that stuff in a grinder, and then so that's pretty much my go-to when it comes to anything other than just plain salt and pepper. Until I start getting into regional cuisines, so that each one calls for specific spice blends to maintain that regional profile. You know what I'm saying? Like Italian food. You won't find Italian food unless it has garlic in it. So, it's just one of those things that if it wasn't for garlic, you wouldn't have Italian food. Basically,
Yeah.
And then same thing with the Mexican and South American dishes. They prefer the jalapeno and serrano peppers. They bump up the heat. So, to each regional cuisine has its own favorites that they like to put into their food to make it their own. Make it their own. I'll do the air quotes on that.
Yeah.
So,
No, I absolutely agree. For myself, I would say that when it comes down to savoriness, dill pickle juice can be one thing that can be pretty powerful. People don't use as much as they could be. Now, again, you have to be careful about how you ratio things, what you're making. You know, if you're making a thicker sauce, you don't want to put too much acidity in there. And you know what? This is kind of an acidic. That's the problem. Dill pickle juice is kind of hitting two categories here, but it's more on the savory acidic side of actual flavor compound. And I guess in a sense you could almost classify it as sour, being that pickles are a fermented thing. But I would still put it in there because it's something I use enough to justify being a good addition that's overlooked. And then black garlic is the other thing I would say when it comes down to especially sauces, or gourmet seasoning. Like it's becoming more of a readily available thing than it was. So
yeah, I actually have some black garlic, but I haven't tried it yet. I picked it up. It's a local producer here in Plumas County.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I know who that is too.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The person out in Blairston. From
exactly. That's exactly where I got it. Yep. We went to a craft fair and picked it up at the craft fair.
Nice.
And they've been here in Quincy, but we haven't had a craft fair in a while in Quincy.
Yeah. No, it's worth the checkout for those unfamiliar with it. And to add on that too, there's another salt that I didn't hear you mention earlier that I think is another recommendation I'd have. That's it's a black salt, but I'm kind of spacing on the name, like if it's smoky salt.
Oh yeah, smoked salt. I have a little bit of that, but I don't use it very much. If I'm doing anything smoked, I'm usually adding smoke myself with real wood.
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to add that.
I've used liquid smoke making jerky before, which comes out okay. But I have a little bit of smoked sea salt.
It's got a time and a place.
Hickory. I think I've seen hickory and not manzanita.
Well, applewood. Mesquite or mesquite.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen both kinds, mesquite and hickory smoked salt.
You know what? Not to derail us too much here, but something I found out the other day that you might find interesting is, did you know that manzanita is technically twice as hard as oak?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. I love manzanita. It's beautiful.
I never realized that it was officially one of the hardest woods on the West.
I didn't realize it can grow very big either until I went to the geysers. I had a delivery up in the geysers for PG&E. I hauled a piece of equipment up there, and I'm driving in and out and looking at this manzanita, and they were trees. They were 40 feet tall, 50 feet tall. They had a trunk that was at least a foot across or better, maybe 18 inches. They were tree size and gorgeous. I couldn't stop looking at them as I was going down the windy road in the geysers. But I love the manzanita. I like the mesquite. The mesquite for smoking like ribs or something like that, or anything southwestern. You put that mesquite smoke in there, and man, that just brings it all together,
Now here's something for you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can you smoke with manzanita since it's technically like a hardwood?
I don't know what the smoke is like from you. You probably could, cut it into small chunks or something like that, and then heat it up. But you might want to do like a test run to see if it's bitter or something like that, because some smokes will be very bitter, and you don't really want that unless you're adding a sugar to your rub.
So apparently you can. It's generally kind of like a hickory smoke.
Okay.
Yeah, I never knew that. I never thought to do that actually. But it just dawned on me you can typically season with hardwood, so
Yeah.
I would assume you'd want to peel all that skin off because that skin's probably the bitter part.
The bark, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
definitely.
exactly.
Yep. I would agree. No, it sounds plausible. I just have never done it myself.
Yeah, it's
Which
something
is
to
funny
try
because
out.
it's all over the place out here.
I know. Well,
I never saw it until I moved to California. They don't have manzanita in Illinois.
yeah, a little too cold for those trees.
South Dakota and Illinois, they don't have a lot of manzanita going on.
Well, let's move into our next flavor compound. That will be the sweet flavors.
Okay.
Now, would you have anything to start us off with this category?
Yeah, and I can touch on different regional cuisines. Back to the Czech cuisine, the sweet flavorings were usually a little turmeric, a little ginger, cinnamon, clove. What else? What else did my grandma use? I think those were the top ones.
Oh, Jeff, you're forgetting Grandma's favorite spice, man.
Well, she
Nutmeg.
She wasn't writing down recipes. My aunt has all her recipes, so I could just give my aunt a call and say, June, what's in this?
Well, there's no way Grandma didn't use nutmeg.
She used nutmeg, allspice. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she used juniper berries, but I put those in like pickling spice when I use it.
Now, why do you put it in pickling spice? Is it does it add like a spiciness to it?
It adds another flavor. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, juniper berries, dried juniper berries.
Yeah, we've got those all over. So.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a nice sweet spice.
Interesting.
It goes good in like a turkey brine, or like if you're brining a roast or something like that. They go good in pickling, anything that you pickle, cucumbers, whatever. They're good in a pickling season spice.
Sure. Now, as far as myself,
I have
really think about it. Oh yeah.
In my pantry, I have 4 different shelves, and on the top shelf, I have a one of those merry-go-round things, the Lazy Susans. So on the top shelf, I have my my spice blends. The next shelf down, I have my heat, which is all my hot flavors. I have hot paprika, I have cayenne pepper, I have red chili flakes, I have all my heat on that one. The next one down, I have sweet, all my sweet flavors, what we just talked about, the cardamom and cloves and nutmeg and allspice and juniper berries. And then the next one down after that is more of my savory for, if I haven't already put it into one of my spice blends, I just need it separate. That's what it's for. So I keep my spices separate, shelf to shelf. so that it's easy. I just go to the shelf I need for sweet or for savory or whatever.
No, that's very smart. I think I might have to set something up like that when I set mine up because I like that idea.
And then I have another one. It's my salt, but I also have it holds my onion and my garlics. So I have garlic and onion powder, garlic and onion granules, and garlic and onion flakes, bits, larger pieces. So I have 3 of each garlic, onion, and so 6 different containers on another Lazy Susan, and then I have all my salts on it. So
very nice, very nice. As far as my sweet category, I think I have to put honey in there as one for sure.
Definitely. And each of the sugars and honey itself have their own. I mean, in the sweet category, you got molasses. You've got the corn syrup. You've got the honey, the
caramel.
You got caramel. You got brown sugar. You've got
like cane sugar. Cane sugar is different.
And I tend to use brown sugar before I use white sugar, unless I'm making a huge batch of something that I'm taking for a potluck or something.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be here for me, I'm using brown sugar as opposed to white sugar. So, and then what else can I put in the sweet category? You have your stevia, which is nice. It's a sugar substitute that's not a chemical. So that's pretty much it for my pantry as far as what I have in there. And it all depends. Like the molasses, I will put into a like baked beans, barbecue baked beans. Get molasses. If I'm making barbecue sauce, the molasses goes in there.
Man, Jeff, you're taking everything.
Oh, I don't buy. Barbecue sauce. I make my own. I make my own ketchup basically because
oh yeah.
Back in the day, it was called old-fashioned chili sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And it was basically what ketchup was before Heinz got a hold of it, pureed it, and dumped a bunch of sugar in it. So I make my own. I have my grandma's recipe for old-fashioned chili sauce, and I've entered it in the fair. I've won a couple of blue ribbons.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's basically ketchup. Anything that calls for ketchup, I use chili sauce instead.
Oh yeah.
It's got tomatoes, onion, garlic, vinegar, sugar, the pickling spices. So it's basically ketchup that's not pureed. It's more chunky.
Well, we'll get to you're getting ahead of our order we talked about.
I know.
You just
I'm down a rabbit hole.
You won't let me do my sweet spices. You take it all. You took like 90% of the category of sweet spices.
Well,
it's like
red hot.
I was gonna mention molasses.
Sauce is sweet.
Well, no, I know.
Chili sauce is sweet.
Yeah,
it's got a little tart to it with vinegar, but it's mostly a sweet sauce.
Well, I got one for you. Okay.
Yeah.
That you haven't taken. Black cherry juice. Now again, I'm very good at choosing the ones that kind of mix sweet and sour, but black cherry juice is just very, very good in
a barbecue sauce,
sauces and marinades. Good. And honorable mention with that would be pineapple. Again, we're riding the but it's kind of unavoidable with a lot of this stuff because there's a lot of things in nature that aren't just one thing. They're parts of different things, and especially when you get into the terps and the flavored compounds and things. I'm not saying I know all of it for these various ingredients, but it does have an effect on how we interpret that through our tongues, through our senses.
Mm-hmm.
But yes,
and most people don't like just sweet or just savory or just salty or just vinegary. They like a little bit of blend, you know, with maybe a higher vinegar, but still with some sugar in it, or with a higher sugar, but with a little lemon in it to tame the sugar, you know. So
Exactly. Break through that flavor.
yeah,
Break it
a
up.
balance,
Mm-hmm.
a good balance, and everybody's tongue is their balance. So you make it to your own taste.
Yeah.
To your, you know, you make your own balance basically.
Exactly. Well, let's see here. That about covers sweet for now, I think, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll get into sour/tart. So,
Okay.
I think, yeah, you go for it, Jeff.
That kind of goes for me in two different directions. One being sour, like lemons, limes, that kind of thing, and we can get into putting that on seafood to make a ceviche, or we could put that onto a you know, fish or something like that, um, or into a drink like a margarita. And then on the other side of it is the vinegar sour, where a lot of cuisines will use vinegar because they've preserved a lot of things in a vinegar brine, and they're just trying not to throw it away. So they've come up with recipes over the centuries to use up the vinegar that's left over from eating their fermented pickles and stuff like that. So one of them in the Czech cuisine is a Švýcková, which is a pickled beef roast. And you basically you take the beef roast and you put it into a pickling solution until it's pickled, and then you roast it, and then you'll use the pickling solution in your gravy. So you have like a vinegary gravy. You make it with carrots and celery and potatoes, and you basically cook the roast and all the potatoes and stuff in a bit of that brine. You bake it in the oven, and then you make a gravy out of the drippings in the pan, which you would put over dumplings, which is basically in the Czech Republic, a dumpling is a loaf of bread, like a raised bread. You know, you like make a regular loaf of bread with yeast, let it rise, and then instead of baking it, you boil it. So it comes out on the inside, it's like a loaf of bread, but on the outside, it doesn't have a crust. It's kind of gooey, so sticky and gooey. So you cut it with a string instead of a knife.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm actually it just dawned on me that
So Švýcková is one of my favorites. My grandmother would make it on, you know, special occasions, Sunday dinners or something like that, when the family would gather together. And that was one of my favorites. We talked about dill earlier. There's another dish we'll talk about, getting back to the dill, but it's not sour or vinegary, so it doesn't really fit this part of the conversation. And then what else do I like sour? Different. I've grown up with, my wife was diabetic. My grandfather was type 2 diabetic. So I grew up with reduced sugar. So a lot of the, you know, like lemon bars and stuff like that, and just about all the desserts had reduced sugar in them as I grew up. So I kind of followed that after I moved out and got on my own. I kind of kept up with that. I don't put tons of sugar and stuff. And when I do, I like a nice sugar.
oh yeah, no, I had to check to make sure that I wasn't messing up the five principles of sauce making.
Mm-hmm.
Because I started thinking about spice, like spicy,
Mm-hmm.
but the spice level is its own thing.
Right.
That's
That's outside of the things that you mentioned, the sweet, the savory, the umami. Yeah.
so that's one thing. For the sake of conversation, we'll add at the end of this a spicy seasoning, because it's still its own category, of course, and it has many uses, but that's something to note, that it's not a prevalent matter when it's in accordance to sauce baking profiles, because even pepper has a spice level.
Right. And different peppers will have different spice levels too.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's hard to put a measure on that when you're blending so much together.
Right.
Especially.
That's why you need regular tasting.
That's something that really defines a good cook from a professional cook from a amateur cook. One of the quality features right there is how much portion control you do with your recipes. That's a hard thing to do.
Right.
It's time. So, but as far as sour goes for myself, I would choose kimchi. Kimchi for sure is one.
I've made kimchi before.
Pickles, a good homemade brined pickle, where you get that fresh juice in there too. That's a good quality to go for. There was other I'd say rhubarb or strawberries.
I love rhubarb.
Strawberries are in that weird category of kind of like
sweet
cherries.
Little tart,
But you catch them in the right time, and then
and the cherries, tart cherries.
Yeah, absolutely. But I feel like
you can pick just about any fruit early to get more of a sour note to it. Yeah,
exactly. That's why it's tough, because you could put lemon here, you could put citrus in general is something to not overlook.
Yeah, that's usually the go-to for your sour, lemon juice. You normally, because between the lemon juice and the vinegar, you get you get a savory and you get a sweet profile, I mean, sure, you could use the lemon on fish, but you can't really use the vinegar in pastry or something like that. I know there's a couple recipes I've run across where, vinegar cookies or something like that.
I have one.
It's almost always savory with vinegar.
I know exactly what to put here. Either sour cream or yogurt. Both of those are technically classified. I believe.
Yeah,
that would be the more tart.
The dairy into it too. Yeah. Definitely. I've made my own malt vinegar before.
Oh, malt vinegar is actually a really, really good one to put.
Oh yeah, I made a batch of extra stout. I used to brew beer, and so I made a batch of stout beer, but it was an extra stout, and I was aiming for about 9% alcohol, but apparently my sanitation method wasn't up to par because it turned into vinegar. But I didn't dump it out. I kept it, and I still have a few bottles.
No, that's a good question right there.
It's well aged at this point.
Now when we're talking about alcohol, where would that go? I honestly,
a malt vinegar. They usually serve that.
No, not malt vinegar. Like Coors Banquet, alcohol, where you're cooking with that. would you consider that
A lot of sugar in alcohol.
acidic? Or yeah, I would think that's sweet.
It's all
So
sugar
it's
converts
kinda-
to alcohol with yeast. So
Yeah.
the higher the sugar content and the more stout the yeast, not as in a yeast for stout beer, but how durable the yeast is under high alcohol. So some yeast will not handle alcohol. They'll convert sugar, and then the alcohol's too high and they can't live and they die and they haven't converted all the sugar. And then other yeasts will convert all the sugar. You won't. So you'll have a very either sour or tart beer or bitter, and it'll be very high in alcohol because there's no sugar left. All the yeast is converted. And then each yeast gives it different flavor compounds too. So you could choose 3 different yeasts for the exact same batch of beer and come out with 3 different flavor beers.
That makes sense.
So, you know,
that's a big difference right there too.
and don't forget apple cider vinegar. You just take apple cider and you can add a little vinegar mother to it. You don't need much, and it'll convert the entire batch to vinegar for you.
Oh yeah,
for a beautiful apple cider vinegar.
No, vinegar. Mothers of vinegar are weird.
Mm-hmm. And then speaking about the yeast in the air and stuff like that, there's also sourdoughs. I made my own sourdough starter out of the yeast here in the house in the kitchen. So
very nice.
You know, it took a week. You know, I would feed it and I just left it open in the air and made sure it stayed wet. You know, and it worked really well. Yeah.
It's weird how you just can do that.
Lost Sierra sourdough. I make my own.
Oh man. Well, let's move forward into umami.
Umami, yeah, mouthfeel.
Yes. Now,
I have nutritional yeast, which gives an umami.
And yeah, you're correct. Umami, not unami. I always forget. It's an M, not an N.
Yeah. Unami is like a tsunami only without that.
Yes. Yeah, that'd be funny. A wave of flavor. I don't think that's what a tsunami is.
A storm of flavor. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, I never thought of that one.
Yeah.
But
so
you
umami, I have the nutritional yeast, and I use that rarely. I put it into soups and stuff like that when I'm looking. It's a little salty, so you want to put it in before you add your last amount of salt. But it gives it that creamy mouthfeel. I think I have a Bragg's brand of nutritional yeast, so I use that for umami. Basically, umami for me is the browning process, whether it's meat or vegetables. So, but if I need to take it out of a container and sprinkle it on something, I go with the yeast, the nutritional yeast.
No, that makes total sense. I don't know if you could consider cornstarch. Cornstarch is kind of flavorless for the most part. So,
right. But see, umami is mouthfeel, not necessarily flavor. So
exactly. So okra, is another one that can be good for this.
Right. Get that sliminess, if you like
that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a big fan on that myself, but
seaweed's another good one to add in there.
Yep.
Crushed nuts, now like walnuts, peanuts, roasted peanuts, especially.
Yep. Or peanut butter or something like that, or a nut butter.
Yeah. And then the other one I think I'd add here is sprouts. As odd as that sounds, fresh sprouts can add a nice or a fresh mushroom, add a nice umami flavor.
Definitely mushrooms. Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed the sprouts.
Sprouts is definitely a weird one, But
and I
when you put it in, it's
got to be a certain kind of sprout.
Yeah, it's that earthiness that gets me about it. almost like a soybean. Yeah. Soybeans have a similar.
Yeah, like bean sprouts that you get in a Chinese restaurant or something have more. They're not so much umami for me. That they have more of a crispness. It kind of a palate cleanser as opposed to something that clings to your tongue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and that's where it's like I do hesitate saying it because
I don't
it's
eat
almost
a lot
in the
of sprouts,
sweets.
so I'm not that well versed in that direction.
Yeah. But yeah, umami's a interesting category. I think the other one I would add here would be, well, obviously MSG, but I don't cook with MSG.
No, I try to leave it. Yeah, I used to, but now that I know more about it, I don't use it anymore.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing you want to be pumping in your food all the time.
No, it's not bad once in a while, but
no, moderation's key with most things.
Yeah, but and a lot of things that you buy that are processed, that packaged goods already have MSG in it. So
yeah, exactly. I guess the only other thing I can think of is like,
well, you can touch on the mushrooms because you can buy mushroom powders nowadays as opposed to having to source fresh mushrooms.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was referring to. It's more
mushroom powders.
The mushroom powders.
Mm-hmm. Reishi and ashwagandha and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's something I'm less familiar with, but I know about because, of course, working with the barbecue place, like mushroom powder's a good one to put in barbecues.
Mm-hmm. You get that earthiness, without the mushroom being there.
Exactly. Now,
I'll have to add one of those to my spice rub.
Yeah.
Mushroom.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that, but it makes sense.
I almost want to say the thing I'm thinking of is root. And maybe I'm thinking
root?
of ginger.
Ginger root.
Ginger's in a weird place.
Yeah, it covers a couple of different categories.
Yeah.
Arrowroot is similar to cornstarch, and it's a thickener. So
interesting. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Somewhat flavorless as well.
In that sense, you could almost put a radish, or no, not radish. Radish is more sweet, in an odd sense.
With a little bit of peppery to it. Yeah. Arrowroot is good for gluten-free diets.
Oh, I know what to put here. Quinoa.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of a weird one, but quinoa's got a very distinct, earthy tone to it.
Yeah. Chia seeds.
And flax. Yeah.
Chia seeds you can use as a thickener as well.
That's
to
true.
Create a sauce. And they'll give you a little bit of umami as well.
It's just so cool. Gotta love all those blends.
Mm-hmm.
Butter is almost belongs here. That's
right.
It can be in the sweet, it can be in the savory. That's
definitely umami. Yeah.
It's
everything's better with butter.
Everything's better with butter. Exactly. It proves itself.
I get nothing but unsalted butter because I prefer my own salt. I use my own sea salt in my recipes, so my butter is unsalted, and I try to get the good butter instead of the, I don't go to Sam's Club to get my butter. Let me put it that way. And then another thing, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I know it's a tough category because there's
a lot of things that fit into umami that you wouldn't really think about it,
Exactly.
Like browning vegetables, browning meat, that adds the umami, and most people just do it because a recipe tells them, or their grandmother did it, or they just habitually do it, and but they don't realize that they're it's adding that mouthfeel, that savoriness, that umami flavor. Yeah.
And I would say grilled onions, as odd as that sounds.
Right. Yeah, that's browned vegetables. If you brown onions and peppers, garlic, carrots, pick a vegetable. Once you brown it up, that adds that umami. It's the browning process, the Maillard reaction.
That makes sense.
Maillard reaction?
I think a long time.
Maillard was a Maillard. Maillard was his name. He was French, I think. I want to say French. And he discovered the process of umami as he was browning things. And he basically, other people were doing it, but he was the one that first wrote it down as an observation and a discovery. So he gets the credit. Maillard, the Maillard reaction.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I mean it checks out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with stew's the easiest example I can think of right there. When you get all those vegetables in the pot, it's not just
chili verde. I cut my meat up into cubes, and then I brown each cube on all sides. It's a long process. I do it out on the patio on my barbecue because it makes a mess on the stove if I do it inside. But it's worth it. It really is. The difference between taking just chunked up meat and putting it into a sauce as a stew to cook it, compared to browning the meat and then putting it in there. It's two different worlds after it's finished cooking. So definitely.
This does touch on what we just talked about, but beans, another honorable mention there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we'll go ahead and move into acidity.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on that?
Again, we're sweet and savory. If you're doing sweet food, you need a little acidity. You'll probably go with lemon. If you're doing acidity with a savory food, you'll probably use a vinegar. That's pretty much it. The shvishiko I was telling you about, the brined beef, that was kind of sweet and sour at the same time. You had the sour from the vinegar, but you also had the sweetness from the carrots and the sweet onions, and I think she used dill in there and stuff like that. And then once you're all done cooking that, you take the meat out, you take all those vegetables and the juice, and you create the gravy. You literally just blend that all together as a gravy.
Yeah.
Including the vegetables. So
yeah, you actually reminded me of two things there.
So it's sweet and sour at the same time in a savory dish.
Now, to rewind, we might this might be savory. Well, it's definitely partly savory, but these two things I think belong in umami as well, and that's beef stock, and or you could say stock in general, and then fish sauce, fish oils. But yeah, fish sauce is one of those that definitely varies.
Yeah, I like fish sauce. It's kind of it's nice. It's got the umami. It's got a little bit of tart and a little bit of sweet. So it kind of covers a few different categories.
And a lot of them are acidic. So that definitely hits the acidic barrier. But again, not all. Some are more oil based, and oils and acids don't necessarily mix.
Right.
So, but we all have our vinaigrettes. Vinaigrettes are a good example of how they can work.
Right.
It's an interesting one. But like you mentioned, apple cider vinegar, definitely a good one. Another one that could be considered for the sweets if you're trying to go a healthy route, especially with baking. And Thinking about
Mm.
um I would say pears are a good fruit that can add a light amount of acidity
Hmm.
that aren't very thought about, of course, pineapples.
Sweet and sour, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely.
And then yeah, there's not a whole lot when it comes to acidity. That it's at least one of the smaller categories due to its universal nature. Vinegars are just vinegars. Like,
Right.
uh, there's again, I think something blatant that I'm missing here. I'm gonna
Well,
look
a
because
lot of people don't explore vinegar. They'll get the white vinegar or the apple cider vinegar, and that's where they stop. Um, by traveling with Lisa, we went down to Solvang and found that little store that makes the balsamic vinegars. And balsamic vinegar, you can get a gallon jug of balsamic vinegar, white balsamic vinegar, and you can infuse it with whatever you want,
oh,
whether it's spices or fruit, and just let it sit for a while, and it'll become a vinegar of your creation.
oh man,
And a balsamic vinegar. And so I've done a few of those for the fair competitions. Um, I've made my own infused vinegars, and like I've used. You can use a. I made one with thyme, lemon thyme out of the backyard. So it had
okay.
like lemony, a thyme flavor, and then you got that vinegar that carries it.
Oh yeah.
So
No, I actually just did a quick search on this, and I think no, the great suggestions on this because tomatillos, uh, very good acidic based ingredient to add to the savory stuff. Um, wine, wine was a very important one.
wine vinegar, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Or just wine in general, you
Uh-huh.
know. But uh, tamarind was the other one that
Uh-huh.
it highlighted, and tamarind's overlooked a lot, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's really got some acid going there.
you'll find that a lot in the Mexican and South American cuisines, and
Yeah.
over in Spain and the Middle East too. Will use tamarind.
Mm, I love tamarind, and I guess the other thing to add to that is dates. You
Uh-huh.
know, dates are another overlooked thing in that grape.
I just had some stuffed dates that were bacon wrapped
Oof,
and then basted with barbecue sauce.
that sounds delicious.
They were dangerous, I'll tell you, man.
Oh man, don't want to eat too many of those.
Yeah, they were stuffed with a um, ricotta cheese.
Oof. Yeah, that's a mouth-watering thing right there. That sounds good.
Yeah, no, they were awesome, man.
Well, speaking of mouth-watering, Jeff, we're at spicy.
Okay.
Man, yeah. Start us off here. What's your go-to spicy?
Well, we'll start with black pepper or the other peppercorns. Those are spicy. You use enough of them, and they could hurt you. Um, Move into the pepper family, as in the spicy peppers, the serranos, the jalapenos, the Scotch bonnets, the habaneros, and I love all of those. In fact, I'll dry them and powder them sometimes. But you got to be careful when you powder them so you don't breathe in the powder. That could hurt you too. And where else can I go with heat? You can get some good heat out of the sweet spices like um, cinnamon, You can get hot. You add enough of it. Clove is also, you put enough clove in something and it'll be hot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So let's see. I'm thinking around the world as far as different cuisines and how they would come up with heat. The hot pimentos from Portugal and Spain, which they turn into hot paprika. Pimento is in the pepper family, so
yeah, those are good.
and
one off the top of my head is the end of onions, the white bulbous part. A lot of people cut
around
that
the root
part off. Yep, right around the root. But the reason they cut it off is because it's so spicy. That's a good one that's overlooked.
Yeah, I use mine all the way down to the bottom.
Me too, man. I love my onion spice.
Oh yeah. And let's see. Yeah, most people reach for the peppers, the hot peppers. And depending on where you live in the world, you'll have your specific peppers for that part of the world. So
yeah, peppers are a pretty universal cuisine option. That's for sure. They've been around a long time.
Yep. And then back to umami, like the shishito pepper. It's not a hot pepper, but it brings umami. So
interesting. It's kind of like the okra.
Kind of like the okra.
Yeah. A pepper technically, but it's not the kind of pepper you want to just bite into.
Right. No. You need to cook. I'm not a big fan of okra. I'll eat it if I have to, but some people love it. And I'm not that guy.
So I remember you and neighbors. No okra.
Yeah. No. Well, I grew okra once just for fun and see what I could do with it, and I found that I didn't care for it too much, so that was it. I really did. I gave it an honest shot.
That was one of my favorite parts with working at Neighbors. Was someone came in, I won't mention his name, but he was trying to bring us some okra he grew from his garden, and he's like, here, take like 5 pounds of okra. And my cook's like, what are we gonna do with all this? No one wants this much okra. And so we
jambalaya, man, jambalaya.
We just started going crazy.
Get you some Creole sausage and you're good to go.
Yeah, no, I started making sauces with it. I was experimenting.
Yeah.
No, that was a good time. Okra's a wonderful thickener. Does not take a lot of okra to thicken your matter.
Correct.
But yes, there is that problem. It's a very slimy ingredient, and a lot of people can't do that.
A slimy thickener, yeah. And some people love it, and I don't mind it, but it's not a go-to for me.
And that reminds me of one thing here for umami. You could almost say like calamari is almost a umami flavor in itself. But again, that's typically your main the thing you're seasoning. So
right.
But something to consider that seafoods in and of themselves and fish, as we've touched on, fish oils, and of course fish oils come from fish. So it all comes full circle. That's what I love about culinary. It's you're engaging with what's around the life, or what's available in the life around you.
Right.
So because again, there's artificial flavors, and we all know them.
I try to stay away from artificial flavors. Most of them are made from petroleum chemicals, kind of like the pharmaceutical industry. And then there are the ones the natural ones don't stay on the shelf very long. That's the problem. That's why they went to the chemicals, the petroleum chemical oils, because or the seed oils. They last longer on the shelf.
Yeah, a lot of our problems come from a determination for preservation, which is it's kind of a full circle problem when you think about it, because
Right.
early day humanity, struggling with famines, struggling to stock food for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
This drive over the years of pushing the culinary boundaries isn't a bad thing, but it's just gotten to the point where it's been exploited for a market value, and it's exploited for a nutritional value. We can inject nutrition into meals for people. We can
Mm-hmm.
inject nutrition into their livestock. They don't need to necessarily come to us. We'll come to them. That's how
Right.
it feels to me, and that's why it's very important to know what you're eating. Um,
Right.
Unlike anyone, I buy crappy food. I eat Lay's chips every now and then. I may break down and buy a Walmart sandwich. But the more you control what you're ingesting, the better off you're going to be. I don't know how else to put it. I know what I'm eating isn't always going to be good for me.
Right. Right.
I am subsidizing those things with activities, with lots of water, with keeping up on vitamins, keeping up on things like that help regulate those problems.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not an excuse. We should demand better of our food system. It's really ultimately what it comes down to.
Right. Right.
We're
Well,
almost.
I think we're on the edge of that. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens after this new administration starts to come in and make changes. But I hold out hope that we can get rid of a lot of the GMOs and a lot of the
dyes.
petroleum.
The dyes need to go.
The dyes need to go. The GMOs need to go. The artificially produced flavors and oils need to go. All the seed oils need to go. They were first designed to run machines on as a cheaper alternative to petroleum, because we didn't have a lot of petroleum going on back then. We've got a lot of petroleum going on now, and we don't necessarily need the seed oils. So instead of losing a possible cash income, the companies producing those seed oils started to market it for food as opposed to machine lubricant. So that's where we're at today with the seed oils. They're even though they're highly processed, they're still cheaper than straight lard. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Or butter. So that's why there's such a prevalence of them.
Yeah, it's a real problem. It's a real problem.
And then you get the doctors and the pharmaceutical industry saying, yeah, you should eat, lower cholesterol. That was the big push for seed oils, right? Low cholesterol, because cholesterol was supposed to be bad for you. Well, now they've come out and said, well, it wasn't so bad for you. And, we're sorry.
Yeah.
So,
well,
when you're going through the store, as you walk through the front door of the store, you can pretty much guarantee that 85% of everything in that store has the GMO plants in it, or highly processed oils, or a lot of added hormones in your meats. I mean, you can probably guarantee 95% of every product in the store to be like that, except for the ones that are in the health food aisle. So, the whole store should be a health food aisle, with the extra stuff being in the poison aisle.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Potato chips aren't necessarily bad if you have an organically grown potato and you're cooking it in beef lard or beef tallow.
Right.
Those two items together with a little bit of sea salt is very healthy for you compared to, your bag of Lay's.
Yeah.
And you can find chip manufacturers that will stay away from the seed oils and stuff like that. It'll just cost you more.
Yeah.
So,
But it's worth it.
When people go through the store looking at the price first, before they look at the ingredients label, that's why so many of these things keep selling in such high amounts.
Yeah.
They're just cheaper.
Well, and that's ultimately the problem. I mean, if you're going there every now and then and grabbing something, you're not really the problem. It's not necessarily that once every blue moon. It's people that make it a
tradition. Gotta have the Doritos. They gotta have the Lay's.
You gotta have your McDonald's. You gotta have your Pepsi. You gotta have
the Cheetos Puffs.
Yeah, it's very cheap. It's very cheap because it's very sweet. And
a lot of those, like the Cheetos, like the popcorn. Basically, you're buying a bag of air with a little bit of filler in it. You're not, your weight is not very much, so your cost per ounce is crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the end product is not really good for you. And there are people that have to have it all the time.
Yeah.
They can't stay away from a bag of Lay's potato chips for more than a couple hours. So
I think one of the biggest things I've seen that for is soda. I mean, I've just seen people destroy. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people destroy cherry Dr. Pepper. They drink it like there's no tomorrow. I don't know what it is with cherry Dr. Pepper people, but a 12-pack a week, man. That's typically what I see, and it's I mean that more in a joke with just that, but
the evolution of Coca-Cola has really, most people don't realize it, that originally it was the coconut was where, or the cocaine and the cola nut together was where the flavor and the how shall I say it, the energy come from. And when they removed the cocaine, they had to find something else, so they started pumping the sugar in there. But to get as much sugar in it to addict people that they needed, they had to put citric acid in there with the sugar, because the citric acid will take the sweetness out of the sugar. So you can put twice as much sugar in something and it's not cloying on the mouth. It's not, not super sweet. So that's what the product is today. It's pumped full of sugar. It's pumped full of citric acid, which is made from bacteria. It's grown from bacteria, and it's probably genetically modified, if I had to guess. And then you got basically a flavored water, other than those items, So the Coca-Cola today is not the same Coca-Cola they had back in the early 1900s.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got way more going on with the ingredients.
The Coca-Cola company went to the chemists over at the tobacco manufacturers to figure out what chemicals they could put in there to make people addicted to it. So they know what they're doing to addict people to their drink, and the people don't really know it. There's only a handful of people that really know what's going on in the processed food industry, period. So it's crazy.
I mean, a good example is I don't know, you probably know this one, but the soda fountains at McDonald's, the Coca-Cola there is stronger. They use a stronger syrup mix than what you buy at the shelves. So that's why when people say they really crave a McDonald's Coke, like they really crave a McDonald's Coke because it's
extra
got
syrup.
I
see that.
Let me see how much
Yeah, you can dial in those dispensing machines to put as much or a little syrup in there as you want.
Extra syrup added, so when the ice is added to a drink, it allows for the perfect ratio of syrup to frozen water. So let's see,
Oh, so they're counting for the melted ice at that point.
yeah,
Gotcha.
that's where they make the excuse, you know.
So if you order without the ice, then you're getting a heftier drink than if if they fill the whole cup full of ice and then pump that soda in there. Of course, they love to put the ice, fill up the cup with ice because you're paying the same amount for the cup of just soda or the cup full of ice that has a soda.
It's a large drink. Let's see. There's 30 ounces in a large drink. So a can of Coke.
That's 12 ounces.
Is 39. So yeah, it's like an additional 8 grams of sugar, I think. Something around that.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's additional
and then
sugar.
The refill.
Yeah.
Refill.
Yep, exactly. Free refills. So you're going in there to McDonald's, and just with your drink alone, if you're drinking, let's say 1.5, I would think is the average of the soda experience for large. That's like 100 grams of sugar right there if you're drinking from Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
So your meal, maybe you're having lunch and you get to the value meal, and you've got another 20 to 30 grams of sugar in each of those sandwiches. So yeah, you could easily be around 200 grams of sugar, and you're already hungry in 3 hours.
Well, the buns that are wrapped around your hamburger have sugar in them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The processed cheese they put on has sugar in it, and the various ketchup has sugar in it. The fries, some of them have a coating that has sugar, and which will make them brown better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But and I'm talking specifically McDonald's. I don't know if other restaurants are coating their fries. And Red says the condiments have sugar. Yes, definitely.
Yes.
I don't know about the mustard so much because it's got a lot of vinegar in it. But
yeah, mustard's pretty low on sugar.
Yeah, but ketchup's definitely got a bunch in it, especially Heinz ketchup. They just pump the sugar like crazy.
Yeah, if you see a person that's slathering mustard on a lot of things, either they're really German or they're probably partly scared of diabetes.
No, I'm next door to Austria in the Czech Republic, so
yeah.
I even dip my French fry in mustard, not ketchup, and I've been doing that since I was a kid. Ever since I started, I was old enough to go buy my own meal in a restaurant.
Yeah, I'd always do that gross mix of ketchup and mustard together.
I do that sometimes, or just plain mustard. Yeah. But I'm a big fan of mustard, and I really like the stone ground mustards. And some of those can have sugar in them too. Some of those are sweet.
That's true.
Like the stone ground, or what do they call that? I don't know. The word escapes me, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, some people do mayo and ketchup with a sweeter.
Yeah, I'll put them both on my burger, and then I'll use just. Sometimes I'll mix them, or sometimes I'll just plain mustard for the fries.
I mean,
all together.
With all these sauce packets and stuff, and I'm guilty too. I'm absolutely guilty, but it's still something like that urges me not to make a immediate habit of a daily routine to go to the same places and get that same craving every day. Like you cannot, you have to urge yourself not to do that, because you're only going to be pushing your health backwards if you do that on a consistent basis.
It's a lot easier to do here in Quincy than it was down in Sacramento area. Sacramento, you can find just about anything you want to eat anytime you want to eat it. But up here, we got 2 chain restaurants, you know, the Subway and the Round Table Pizza.
Yeah.
And other than that, you got to drive 80 miles to find that stuff. So, you know, whether it's Susanville, Reno, or Chico. So,
yeah, it's a stretch.
Yeah. So that kind of helps. That helps a lot of people here, you know, stay away from that kind of thing. But I was I never really went to a lot of fast food places after I got out of trucking. When I was a trucker, I'd eat at Carl's Jr. or In-N-Out or Del Taco, because I did not like that Taco Bell. And then Jim Boy's. Once I found Jim Boy's, I would eat at Jim Boy's instead of the other 2.
Nice.
You know, I like the cheese they put on the outside of their taco shells, but it's probably still tons of seed oils and for you, you know.
That's the tough thing, man. It could just be one of these ingredients on this thing that could ruin it all.
Right.
And that's a lot of times it's the breads. A lot of times it's you know, the sauce. There could be a really, really rich sauce someone uses that's just slathered with dye, or you know, you never really know unless you do the footwork and look. So it's good to always ask questions going early. Now, before we get too much more derailed here, which that was a good topic, very good topic, but regional cuisines. Let's dive into this.
Okay,
Jeff, I know you had a few things to mention here. I'll let you free.
All right. I grew up. My grandmother, my dad's mom was Czech, 100% Czech, and she had all the recipes memorized for her mom and grandma. So I kind of took notes without writing anything down. I learned how to make her strudel, her apple strudel. I learned how to make the schwichkova, the pickled beef, and other like sauerkraut with pork roast with sauerkraut. You cook them both together with little sesame seeds, or I'm sorry, caraway seeds, not sesame, caraway seeds mixed in the sauerkraut, and you put it in the same pot and you bake it in the oven until the pork roast is done, and then you serve it with dumplings. You don't make a gravy out of the sauerkraut like you do with the schwichkova. You just serve it as the vegetable, and that gives you the tanginess of the sauerkraut brine, and then you get the kind of a sweetness from the pork. And then you serve it with the dumplings, which are basically bread. So you get a little bit of sweetness from that, and that'll help everything else, you know, because the sauerkraut can be very tart sometimes. So you kind of use the dumplings to cut the tartness. And by baking everything, including the sauerkraut and the pork roast together, it browns really nicely, which creates that umami. So a lot of one-pot meals have umami just because it's baked together and browned. So, and then when it came to moving from, well, growing up in Illinois and in the Chicago area in general, I have a soft spot for Chicago-style pizza. But growing up in an atmosphere where there's pizza places everywhere, I didn't have to eat at chain pizza locations. I was able to go to whatever family restaurant I wanted to, and they each one had their own version of pizza that was handed down in their family. So I have, you know, I make my own pizzas. I cheat a little. I open a jar of pizza sauce and I use a flour tortilla. But everything else on top You get the Italian sausage, you get or maybe some prosciutto. They call it bacon out here, but prosciutto, some mushroom and onion and garlic and pepper and tomatoes. I take little cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes, and I'll cut them into quarters lengthwise, cut them in half, and then cut each half in half, and then I'll put those on top after I'm done with the cheese and stuff. So, and I cook it right on a stone, just like the old school, in the oven. So I will continue making my own pizzas. I don't blame people for going to a pizza place if that's all they have. I can't blame them, but some of that store-bought pizza can be not so good for you.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some better options than 7-Eleven pizza runs,
Yeah. Well, I mean, like Round Table Pizza, they make a good, high-quality pizza. It's filling. It tastes good. It's got a lot of ingredients. They have a lovely variety. But I know they're using GMO products. The veggies and the flour are GMO. Whereas when I make my own, I buy my own veggies the way I want them. So I can knock that GMO thing out of there. So
yeah, you can't trump cooking your own food. Yeah, it's really the best option, financially speaking,
health-wise.
Health-wise, if you can figure out what you're doing and not burn your place down.
Right. Well, even my cheap pizza with the tortilla in the jar sauce, I choose a high quality sauce, lower sodium, non-GMO, that kind of thing, and it's still sauce. And then all my veggies and the tortilla. Well, that's probably GMO, but at that point, it's the only GMO left in my pizza. So anyway, and then growing up in Chicago is the Chicago style hot dog, which I don't know if I'll ever eat again, because now that I found out that 90% of hot dogs and sausages on the market have human DNA in them. It'll be
hard. What is that about? What's specifically causing the human DNA to?
There is a and I've kind of known this all my life. Growing up in Chicago, I grew up with a lot of people that were mob connected, or wanted to think that they were mob connected. My Uncle Vinny, he'll come over, break your kneecaps. Yeah. I heard that from all the kids in school. But part of the mob getting rid of their problems included butcher shops. Let me put it that way.
Gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense regionally.
New York, Chicago,
Vegas,
LA,
Ugh.
So
yeah.
And that report of like 90% of all hot dogs and sausages that you can buy on the market is kind of, I kind of knew that the mob got rid of their problems that way, or they would basically throw their problem in with the pigs and let the pigs take care of their problem for them. And then they would just turn the pigs into food, pork sausage.
Yep.
But one of the ones that surprised me was Nathan's came up without any human DNA. Sorry to throw a brand out there, but
no. They you said they didn't.
There was none found in the Nathan's brand.
That's good. I'd say the brands that are clear is a good thing to mention. The brands that are not, I mean, it's also a good thing to mention.
Yeah. At this point, you would want to consider almost every commercial hot dog out there, and then probably also lunch meats made by the same manufacturer, like Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer hot dogs and bologna are probably sourced in the same animals, some of which include human DNA. So
yeah,
where they're getting that from in a quantity enough to measure in your average hot dog that somebody picks up out of a store and decides to measure it, I don't know where they're getting that much human DNA, but
gnarly. It's there apparently.
I just learned that only a couple of months ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a recent study.
Oof.
So
well, that's quite the regional cuisines we got going on there,
and I think that goes into umami because Jeffrey Dahmer's favorite meal was a McDonald's Big Mac. Okay,
interesting. Mm-hmm.
He craved them. Okay, take that with you.
Yeah,
I'm not saying there's any proof of anything, but that was his favorite meal in prison.
Oh man, couldn't tell you, man. There's a lot of funky stuff in the culinary world. A lot more than a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
But no, yeah,
it's a sick world. I'll tell you what.
I mean, just some of the stuff that they would do at the wharf with fresh seafood.
Right.
It's like, okay, this is the 5th day you got your baby shrimp out here. Like, yeah, they're not selling because there's white water in the bottom of it. Like, they can see it. There's glass shelves. Like,
yeah,
it's not fresh, dude. You can't convince someone that looks fresh.
Yeah. I kind of hurt myself in the fresh seafood area because I've been salmon fishing with my cousin Jack and barbecued a fresh salmon. And I've also taken a trip, many motorcycle trips with friends out to Tamales Bay, just north of San Francisco, and they farm oysters. And if you could get an oyster that's like only been out of the water for an hour or two, you will never go back to anything you see in a store or a restaurant. It's just such a stark difference once you have right out of the water compared to everything else you've ever had. So I would literally, we would ride motorcycles down there and I would buy the doubles. So that it's like 2 oysters stuck to each other, and you could get, and the 2 together was about the same size as an extra large by itself, meat wise. So you got to open 2 shells, but you get the same amount of meat as an extra large. The thing is, you're going to pay more for the extra large than you will for the doubles. So I'd buy a bag of 50 doubles or 2 bags of 50 doubles, and I'd start eating one of them there. So that's like 100 oysters with me and my buddies. And we'd start eating them raw first while he was setting up his camp stove with the fry pan and the breading. And then he would get the barbecue grill going with the coals so that we would cook them. We would eat them raw. We would bread them and eat them fried. And then we would just put the shell right on the barbecue grill. And when they pop open, they're done. So we would eat them 3 different ways. And then when the crowd, we would leave Sacramento at 6 and get there at 9. And then when the Bay Area crowd came about lunchtime, we'd leave. We'd buy another bag of 50 and I'd take them home. And then I go sell them to my cousin. The same guy I went salmon fishing with, my cousin Jack. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good trip, fresh oysters and a nice motorcycle ride,
It's delicious.
That's a day right there, man. Tell you what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Same thing. Any seafood, you got to have it fresh. If it's not fresh, it's.
I still can't get over the fact that last time I went down to the wharf, the new owner of the restaurant I worked at didn't even know what scallops were. I just couldn't believe that.
You're working at the
Italian restaurant. Yeah, in an Italian restaurant, you don't know what scallops are. You're in the wrong business, dude.
Scallops, yeah, they're scallop potatoes with cheese.
Yeah, he's like, I'll go see if we have them. Like, we're at the coast, dude. You either have them or you don't.
Right. You would know right off the top of your head. That's right.
Oh man.
No, I have not been down to the Bay Area in a long time. I prefer not to go into the city anymore. It's been, last time I was there was in a semi truck.
Oh man, let's digress to our top spices.
Yeah, we got off the spice.
We got a little off the spice. We got a little spicy after spiciness.
Yeah, we were spicy.
Jeff, we'll go ahead and start with you. What's your top picks for your spices in any
Yeah,
order you'd prefer?
The top ones for me, we'll start with savory, and it goes sea salt, cracked pepper, and then onion, garlic, paprikas, whether smoked, hot, or sweet. I like all of them, and the hot peppers also, like the red chili flakes, or I have a seasoning blend. This is one that I bought. It's a tagine, and so it has lime in it as well, with the chili powder and paprika and a little bit of heat.
Yeah, tahin's good. I like tahin.
Yeah, and I don't use it much. I'll sprinkle it on the top of, like, I'll do stuffed eggs, so it'll give it that red color and a little bit of lime to, when you bite into it. I use horseradish in my stuffed eggs too, but I don't really call that a spice. But for all the things we've talked about, you could add horseradish to some of that, like umami.
Oh yeah.
Or the tartness. And horseradish will add heat, it'll add tartness, and it'll add a little umami.
Yeah, no, I think horseradish was the one I was thinking of earlier. That when I was talking roots, because horseradish is definitely a distinct flavor profile. I mean,
Yes.
It's essentially wasabi at the end of the day.
Yes. Their flavor profiles are parallel, pretty much. The way they grow is totally different. The wasabi is grown in running water, and the horseradish will take over your garden.
Yeah, it's pretty. That's a pretty interesting culinary story.
Yeah,
how, wasabi's made these days, at least the fake stuff. But
and then on the sweet side, my favorites are cardamom, brown sugar, honey, the ginger, turmeric for color. I'll use turmeric for color. I like the allspice, clove, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, and then back to savory. I'll add cumin and chili powder to the spices that I use constantly, because I make a lot of Mexican style stuff. The chili verde and stuff like that. So that's about it.
No, I like it.
Those are my top all the time use.
Nice. No, for myself, I was able to compile like 7, and of course different uses, but generally I'll rely on these for what I like from my favorite compounds. But Tabasco, Tabasco pepper specifically. Yeah, I love those Serrano peppers are not bad.
So Tabasco pepper without the sauce. Is that what
I like Tabasco with the sauce. Now,
the Tabasco sauce, yeah. So you're getting the vinegar in there too.
Yeah, either or. But personally, I'll take the Tabasco as is because of that vinegar. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone with that.
I've been making my own fermented hot sauces lately too.
Red mentioned sriracha. Sriracha is definitely one I enjoy too.
Sweet and hot with some umami. Yeah, definitely.
Caribbean jerk. That's the spice that my stepdad got me interested in, and that's the one I've used over the years. Caribbean jerk's a nice blend. I forget exactly everything that's in there, but I believe it's some brown sugar, various pepper. There's some good stuff.
There's some cumin in there, and
a very, very bold flavor. But
I have a blend of jerk up in the cabinet.
Nice. Yeah, it's got its uses.
Yeah. I'll do it with like chicken on a skewer or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's great for shish kebabs.
Yeah, I'll do some chicken thighs on a skewer, and then I'll season them up.
Honey is one that I enjoy using. speaks for itself. Very, very useful.
Mm.
Garlic, lemon, those two,
Mhm.
staple in the kitchen. Cinnamon,
Definitely.
one of my top ones. You
Mhm.
can use cinnamon for a lot of stuff, including burgers and um, vegetables. You can use it with various rubs. Things that people don't use it for a lot. I feel are the meats, and they shine with meat. They're also not too bad. It's not too bad on eggs, and the reason I recommend it too is it's good for heart health. So the
Mhm.
more places you can sprinkle some cinnamon, and I mean real cinnamon,
Right.
the better for your overall health benefits.
Yeah. 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 And Red chimed in with saffron, which I have to agree with. It doesn't have a lot of flavor to it, so you can't really have a lot going on around it. It's got to kind of be the star. But you can grow your own saffron. It's a crocus bulb. You pick the little hairs when the bulb opens into a flower in the spring. You pick the hairs and let them dry out. That's your saffron. That's where saffron comes from the crocus plant.
Yeah, saffron's really interesting. That
Yeah,
that
we
that
have
made
some
me
that
think
keep
of
coming up every year here.
that made me think of shallots. That's the other one we didn't mention, but shallots is
Shallots,
another
onion family. Yeah.
strong.
Yep.
A bolder onion, basically
Right.
a more expensive onion, for lack of a better term.
An onion with more character.
Yeah, yeah,
So you need to pay more.
yeah. Exactly. No, I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times. My favorite was in Georgia. I worked for a place that they wanted to make bologna sandwiches, but they're like, "Well, we're gonna make it premium, so we're gonna spread truffle ranch on the outside." So
Yeah.
they'd have this expensive truffle, but then they'd slap a slab of bologna in the middle of it. I'm like, it's
Nasty.
so salty. Like, what's the point of doing this? It's so stupid. They'd sell like 13
Yeah.
bucks for that bologna sandwich. I'm like,
They'll make mayonnaise out of the truffle oil with an egg, and then they expect it's worth tons of money.
oh
That's
man,
funny.
no, pricing always gets me for the culinary world. But again, I digress with that one. Red mentioned that she had a friend who went to different countries and would always bring a spice. I think that's really cool.
I've done that a couple of places.
Yeah.
Lisa and I would do cruises, and we would bring stuff back. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I have a question. Is Robert much of a cook?
Yeah. He's a smoker and a griller.
Nice.
Definitely.
With all the fishing he's
Handy
been
in the
doing and
kitchen.
hunting,
Yep.
I would hope. Yeah, it's got
Yep.
good ingredients.
Breakfast, he eats about 8 eggs.
Yeah. Sounds like Robert.
Yeah.
And
8 eggs and a half a pack of bacon.
I feel like he's double my size, man. He's stacked, man. Over the years watching him grow, because that's the trip to me. Is like Robert was, I think, in 10th grade when I was in first. So, like, yeah, he's got to be like 33 now.
Pushing it, yeah.
Yeah, something close.
And at least 6 feet.
Yeah, man, he's tall.
Yeah, he's taking after his dad height wise, not his mom. Definitely not taking after his mom on his height.
At least he would have bopped you for that one.
Yeah, no, I loved her. Size doesn't matter to me. It's what's inside.
Absolutely, man. Well,
yeah.
The last one I have on my list is onion flavor. I had to add it. Onion's just, when it comes to my primary go-to, if I didn't have anything else, it's either black pepper or onion. I prefer onion because, again, you get some acidity out of it. You get a little bit more of a stretch out of onion. Like if you're on a camping trip, for instance, grill some onions. You can put that with anything. Black pepper, but again, you need a sweet. And
I'll put
and
onion on a sandwich before I'll put lettuce.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Onion top priority.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I ran through my lazy Susan with the powder, the granulated, and the chips. And then pick, onion onion dressing or onion dip is basically um, just a blend of spices and some MSG for your umami. You can easily switch out the MSG for the nutritional yeast and back down on the salt a little, and it'll still be up.
Yeah.
I
No,
like
no,
myself some
absolutely.
mayonnaise though. I might have to try that.
Mm.
I have not
Yeah.
made my own mayonnaise yet. I
No,
might have
that's
to do that.
it's not bad. It's just don't slap bologna on it, and, and it's better.
No. I go back to the hot dog discussion earlier
Hmm.
on bologna.
Exactly.
I can't remember the last time I ate a piece of bologna.
Oh
It
man.
was
Yeah, that was the goofiest thing, working in a fine dining restaurant serving a bologna sandwich. I would have never guessed that would have ever been in a menu, man. But the South is a interesting place.
heck yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. We're gonna go ahead and skip our ending stuff because, yeah, we came here for a culinary experience. That's what people are coming here for today. And
Mhm.
there's nothing to really reflect on other than I'm hungry, and I bet you are too, and I bet you are too. So now we'll have something good to tease people with next time they show up. Um, Tell them all the spices they missed out on.
Right.
I really enjoyed this today with you, Jeff, and
Yeah, it's fun.
I appreciate you showing up and being a part of this.
Yeah, and I can't wait till you're standing in my kitchen again, and I can make you something with all those
Oh, yeah.
spices I got stashed.
Yeah, no, we're planning our trip out. We'll figure it out towards later April. We'll be up there for a few days. Try to get something going. So,
Very good. Yeah.
well, I hope your day goes well at church and you're able to get everything done you need to get done today.
Thank you, Cameron, and same to you. Hope you have a pleasant day.
Thank you, my friend. And this has been an Intellectual Adventure podcast. Thank you guys for being here, and we really enjoy having you for our discussion. So until next time, we will see you in 2 weeks, and we look forward to it. Have a great day.